Alright, let's do this, party people. So, talking about perfection. And a lot of the time we hold ourselves to this standard that we call perfection. And it freezes us a lot of the time because it very much is a part of that all or nothing attitude that we tend to have most of the time. It's just a natural tendency for humans to be, if I can't do something 100%, I'm not going to do it at all. What happens most of the time is we aren't at 100%, so we end up not doing it at all. And this is very counterproductive to actually moving forward because that fear of being wrong, if that stops you and rules your life, you're coming from like a place of lacking by way of doing that, then you're going to, one, not get as far as you could, but two, you're probably going to have that occur a lot more than you think. It's kind of like that phrase, if you're afraid to fall, you fall because you're afraid. So it's like by being so scared of something, you cause that very thing to happen. Now, when we're talking about perfection, it's an inherently normal thing for humans to not want to be wrong. I don't like being wrong. It's not a nice feeling. But the fact is you're going to be wrong at some stage. It's just going to happen, especially when you are trying to make big moves and just trying to do anything in life, progress. And you can even argue by not progressing, you're also doing something wrong. So, and obviously it depends on your goals and all that. But when it comes to that, we don't want to be wrong, and I understand that that's the reason a lot of people don't start up new things or try out new things or follow through on things because they're scared of looking silly. For example, if you just started the gym, a lot of the time you're scared of what are other people going to think? What if I look like an idiot? What if I'm doing all the wrong moves? And that kind of thing. And it can paralyze us to the point where we don't take action. And obviously you can see how that's detrimental because of the fact that no action was taken that takes you in the direction towards achieving your goals. Yeah, I think the way I said that makes sense. I gotta hold this guy because he's got a bit of diarrhea, so I'm just gonna hold on to him and then we're gonna go outside in a sec. Not us, just him and I and Timmy. Alright, so when it comes down to it, for example, this morning when I was trying to post that story, I was trying to get it perfect. I was so like, oh man, I can't get this wrong. Should I say it this way? Should I say it this way? And it took me quite a while to just get into it and do the stories. What's up, Billy? So yeah, by doing that and being so afraid of being wrong and so fixated on getting it perfect and having the perfect phrases, and I was getting conscious about the fact that I was umming and erring so much, I ended up like, it just got really frustrating and I kept getting put off. And I was like, man, you know what? Maybe I just don't want to do this video. But I was like, no, this is going to be good for a few reasons. One, it helps me refine my message. Two, if we're talking Instagram stories specifically, people don't care that much. Like, they're just tapping through, same as your feed. You're just scrolling through. If something catches your attention from someone you're bought into, you'll listen to that for a couple seconds. If it's a topic you're interested in, most of the time there. So it's maybe like 1% of the people viewing your story. 1 to 5%, just throwing out numbers there. They're interested in looking at your story that way. So if you think about it that way, it's like your audience the actual audience that are going to see this thing is so small relative to what you think it could be. If it's like 300, 400, 500, 10,000 people. It's not that many people that are actually paying attention to what's being said. But the fact is, those people that are paying attention, you just being willing to speak about those things can really, really potentially help someone at the point that they're at in their journey. And that's not the only reason to do things. It is a large reason. I think serving people is huge, and doing that side of things. But it's like, if you realize that your unrefined thought process can actually really help someone with where they're at. It doesn't have to be this refined, perfect script that you've figured out in your head. No ums, no ahs, the perfect amount of pauses, the perfect tone, use of your tone and non-verbal language, all of the verbal language hammered in. That might not help someone as much as them being part of the process there at its rawest form. And then over time, like, I'm going to continue to develop the idea that I talked about this morning, and eventually I'll make it a reel. Eventually I'll make it like a long form thing and do some more posts about it. But the thing is, it's like along that way, someone might need just that exposure to see it a few times to understand it, or they can follow my thought process and be like, this makes a lot of sense. But a lot of the time we're we get so caught up in the idea of, man, this has to be perfect. Like, I have to get it right because this one thing is going to make or break my business. And the fact is, we know that it's not going to. More often than not, it's not going to. But we treat it like it is. So when you do that, it tends to freeze you, and you can't really make moves in the direction that you want to. So I kind of, when I was making the story, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I get this perfect and say all these things that I've been thinking in my head. I'm just going to say it. So then I said it. A lot of ums, a lot of ers, got frustrated throughout, but I was like, I'm posting this. This is good. And then also it was like the stories posted like 40 minutes apart because of my internet connection. So part 1 and part 3 of that were like all over the place, and the captions were taking forever to load. But I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter, because whoever needs to see this and whoever this is going to help right now, it's going to help them. Maybe just means they come back 40 minutes and they're like, oh, there's a third part to this. I'll watch it. So there's that side of things there. And basically the only way to get over that idea of perfection, or like trying to hold ourselves to that standard, is just to take action in alignment with the type of person that we want to be. So yeah, when we're talking about perfection as well, a really interesting quote that I've heard from Tony Robbins, if you know who that is, I feel like most people know who Tony Robbins is perfection is the lowest standard that you can hold yourself to. And I feel like that rings true, because essentially we can say like, I'm going to do this when it's perfect, when the opportunity is perfect, when I can do it perfectly. And because we know that that doesn't exist, like it's not possible, it's not feasible for us to actually get everything perfect most of the time. There's always a little something that could have been better, a little something. And also what's perfect for you might not be the way someone needs to hear it, and that kind of thing. But when it comes to that, being perfect and holding yourself to that standard is the lowest standard you can hold yourself to, because it doesn't exist. You're holding yourself to a standard that does not exist. And that's something that I thought was really interesting. And another thing on that is I think it was Team Full Rom. I'm forgetting his name. Mike Uzratel. I think he said something where it's like, a lot of people are waiting for the perfect time to start training. This was the example he gave. So a lot of the time we're waiting for the perfect time, but the fact is there is no perfect time to start. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. There's that side of things. So because there is no perfect time or perfect moment, that kind of makes every moment the perfect moment to start in a way. It might seem like it doesn't make sense, but I just feel like that really resonated with me when he was, when that was said that way. Like it doesn't have to be, perfect. And by waiting for that, I kind of combine those two things where I say like perfection is the lowest standard you can hold yourself to. Because if you try to cling on to this idea that is essentially so improbable of achieving and so just like probably not possible to achieve, you're basically holding yourself to an impossible standard. That means that you take no action at all a lot of the time. Or if you do take action, you beat yourself up for it, which is something that I work on with my guys as well with posting. Like, what if this guy misconstrues what I'm saying? What if this person misconstrues it? Maybe it'll happen. There's no guarantee that that doesn't happen that way. I'm sure I've said things that people have misconstrued or misunderstood and vilified me for it. And that's okay. It's going to happen. But the fact is that life goes on. You can keep progressing, you keep learning, because I've said things like 3.5 years ago when I first started as a PT as well, that were wrong. Like, now I think they're wrong, maybe they were right. But I would just do things and I'd fail, but essentially by doing that and working as a PT and not allowing that to stop me from doing PT work and coaching and all that, I failed forward, as some people would say. So failing forward, because through that, you're going to learn the things that are required to be successful for you specifically at whatever stage you're at in your journey. So by just being okay with being wrong, like it's just going to happen, but hyper-focusing on it only makes it worse because 1, you stress yourself out more, and 2, you also make yourself much more likely to actually being wrong, like I said earlier. Just because of that hyper focus on it. So yeah, if you find yourself saying, I'm a perfectionist, I need this to be in order to get this started, then I think it's important to take these, like listen to this stuff, hear these words, but you've also got to do something about it. This is all for naught if you don't do something about it. So my practical advice for you, like this being on the Coach's Coach, this being on the live, is if you are a coach that's not sure about posting something, just post it. It doesn't matter how it is. And you'll see that the world doesn't end when you post that thing. You can post it can be wrong. I do it sometimes. I get like, man, this isn't perfect. It's fine. Just go for it. Go for it. And sometimes you'll be wrong. And that's okay. You're going to help people along the way, but think of all the people you could help, but you don't because of the fact that you're so afraid of being wrong that you just don't put anything out there. So there's that side of things. If you're not sure about posting or even putting out an offer or being like, my coaching services, there can be this as well. Or like, I've got spots available and no one says anything and no one takes you up on it. Honestly, the post I put out on my story the other day, this obviously would date this a little bit, the Coach's Coach thing. I didn't have anyone say that they want to do it, and that's okay. I don't feel like that's a bad thing because that just means whoever saw it at the time, they weren't ready to come onto it. I'm going to continue to put that out there and be like, I have offers available. I have this available. I have that available. And I've got a few different offers that I can put out there. But it's like by not being like, oh, this has to be perfect. I have to fill up the 2 spots that I put out or the 5 spots or the 7 spots, however many spots you put out there. By not making everything contingent on one thing. I think that's important. And just doing it. So whatever you're, oh man, I got to make this perfect. Just if you just like drop this, do it now. That is one of the best ways to overcome it because that action builds momentum in the direction that you want to go. So by just doing it, you see that it's okay, and then you start doing it consistently and frequently. So that is the practical advice element of this. Just doing the thing. And then, I think also realizing that not all of your success, because obviously we're all striving for success. Not all of your success is contingent upon one moment. It's not contingent upon one moment, and it's not contingent upon one post. It's not contingent upon one client. It's not contingent upon one session that you do with someone. It's a series of events and actions that you take that compound on one another that end up leading you to becoming the person you are and will continue to develop you into the person that you want to be. And the last thing I'll leave you with is with the perfection side of things. I say this to call you forward, not to call anyone out. Timmy, that's not what I'm trying to say. Sorry, he was just sniffing around like he was going to go to the toilet. I'm about to take the boys out to the backyard. Oh no, what was I saying? See, I could cut this now out of the Coach's Coach side of things as well, or on the live. But I'm going to sit here for a second and just try and remember it, because it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to pick this guy up. Oh, goodness. No, picked him up wrong. Oops. My bad. Pick him up by his harness sometimes. And that's wrong. And I'm not going to do that anymore. Right. This is what I was going to say. You are the one who chooses to not abide by or let that subconscious standard that you have yourself of perfection, you are the one who chooses not to allow that to rule them. You can choose the kind of person that you want to be. And that just starts from this very moment. So if you hear this and can take action, that's fantastic. But you're the one who has that power, so it's about choosing to take action in accordance with the kind of person that you want to be. That's all for this one. Hope this has been helpful. If anyone has any questions about it, let me know. And I'm happy to talk it through. But also when you do ask me questions, realize that I can't force you to get out of that as well. It's up to you. All the power is within your hands. I could say the perfect thing technically from my side with all of my experience and things that have worked for countless other people. But I can't force you to change your standard of perfection and do that side of things. You have to choose that for yourself, and you very much can. All of that power is within your hands. Anyway, starting to repeat myself, got to take these boys out to the toilet, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.